Welcome on back to the BUSR for the summer split here, brought to you by SimStaff, NSC, and Grid Finder. We're going to be heading out to the Madring with the brand new 2026 regulation cars. It's going to be a little bit of a long one with quali, then the race. But today, I'm joined by Oren. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I've done a slightly poor Rosberg. I've got my podium, and now I'm going to retire and do commentary.
Yeah, that makes... Yeah, I mean, you got the podium eventually.
The singular achievement I've ever wanted in the BUSR. Now I'm done.
Well, glad that you are here to join me in the commentary box to give some of that racing experience from this league. Having that knowledge racing some of these drivers, who's going to be the ones to watch going into this season?
So Christos Perakouros is currently our champion from last season, but he's decided to take the first race off. So I reckon the pole will either be between Josh Woolley, Willow, or Ben Mills.
Yeah, drivers from last season who all did well. I say all did well. Willow was really good when Willow was there. Ben Mills was really good when Ben Mills was there. And we've seen the story of Josh Woolley multiple seasons over at this point. Arguably the fastest qualifier, but just needs to actually get a race finish without incident. Going into Madring, though, any opinions and thoughts on the track that will lead into either of these drivers?
I'm yet to drive the track myself, but I've spoken to a lot of the drivers, and I've heard not so great things about the circuit. There's a lot of the chicanes are quite tight, and where the time will be is how much of that corner you can cut. And in the race, if you do cut the corner too much, it's an instant 10 seconds. But it being a street circuit, it's one of those where you don't need to take that many risks in the race, because although there are quite big overtaking opportunities into turn 1 and at the end of the second DRS straight into turn 5, it being a street circuit, it's narrow. You're not going to be able to make that many moves. So during the race, you've just got to keep it clean. It's the first time everyone's racing here. There are going to be crashes. There are going to be safety cars. So it's going to be keeping it clean and also playing the strategy right. It's expected to be a one-stop, medium to hard, medium stop around lap 10. But if there are multiple safety cars, maybe a soft tyre towards the end of the race, maybe not pitting under the first safety car. It will be how the drivers approach knowing there are going to be multiple safety cars. And then sometimes if there's going to be multiple safety cars, it's just luck.
Obviously, potentially going to have a lot of safety cars with a bit of a condensed lobby as well. Obviously, BUSR sometimes running a second lobby if we get enough attendance, but always condensing it down just to the one like we are here today. That means we're going to have a little bit further discrepancy across the field, but that top echelon is going to be highly competitive as in previous seasons. But hopefully we don't have too much incidents with backmarker traffic, especially if they start to get lapped.
Yeah, I think merging the two lobbies always creates a bit of chaos. And as I said, it's the first time racing at this track. It's a street circuit. It's narrow. And I think that is just the chaos we need to kick off summer.
Obviously, getting the 2026 cars in as well is going to change quite a lot of it. Any insights to how to drive these cars?
So obviously the big change from 25 is the introduction of boost mode that has replaced overtake. An interesting one with boost mode actually is that if there is a yellow flag during qualifying, that will disable boost mode, which doesn't seem that much of an issue, but a lot of drivers do tend to get out of the way, and then the game will always throw a yellow flag. So not only lap traffic getting in the way could inhibit your lap, but also if the lap traffic is going too slowly, brings out a yellow flag and you no longer have boost mode. So if you catch a lap car in a bad point of the track, it could cost you massive amounts of time.
Yeah, touching on it a little bit further though, how do you feel like the handling model has changed compared to previous regulations?
So obviously you have the reduction in weight, so the car feels a bit more nimble at low speed. The reduction in downforce means that your braking zones have increased a bit, your turning feels a bit weaker, but also you have less downforce. So last year there were massive issues about trying to follow another car, but for this game, the aero wash has come down a lot, so you can follow a lot closer. And then boost mode has also come in to try and make overtaking better. So I think we should see, not necessarily around here, but in the following 7 races, a lot more overtakes and a lot more closer battles.
Hopefully that does pay dividends for the better battling, as in the previous regulations we did see quite a lot of races turn into just hoping for the slipstream to be a little bit more powerful, because they just get stuck without the slipstream scaling up the closer they get and just running out of battery. But it's going to be interesting to see, as we do head to the track finally, how this new system is going to change up the order, and if any of the drivers are able to get a hands and a grip of these brand new cars quicker than anyone else.
You can expect all the drivers to use all 3 soft tyres that are available to them. I reckon they would have picked the harder presets. They'll have 2 sets of hard tyres and a medium, so all 3 softs will be used in this session. Double running a tyre is an option, but considering it's a street circuit, you're using a lot of the tyre through the low speed, so maybe that second lap, only if you make a mistake on the first, but expect 3 push laps from each driver.
As we can see, the map in the bottom right, the purple/pinkish indicators, that's where that boost, the wings will flatten out and they get that extra little bit of attack on the cars. Meanwhile, that yellow dot is where that overtake mode is calculated across the track. As long as you're within a second, you'll get it for the entirety of the lap. That is increased regen and increased deployment rates as well. But as we ride on board with Newt, we do get to see some of the brand new cars all in the game as well. It is key to note that some of these cars might not look exactly like real life, as they are still updating some of the models, especially when it comes to the wheel on wings. The best examples of that is obviously the Ferrari and the Red Bull, with their newer innovations with the rear wing not quite being imported just into the game just yet. As we ride on board with Josh Woolley, Josh Woolley this season is going to be joined by Charlotte Perkins, unlike the usual pairing with Ben Mills, as Ben Mills has moved over to a McLaren, joined by a Geek. You can get Newt as well, joined by Thomas down the order, and the Aston Martins will no longer have Chris Pilipouris at the helm. It's going to be Assassin J and Apex George this season. Meanwhile, Red Bull is going to have, I think, Luke Sawyer and Chris Pilipouris. I'll see Chris Pilipouris this time getting filled in by Cool Guy Fassi, if I'm correct. No, that's okay. Ferrari, my bad, actually. Luke Chris is going to be in with Luke Sawyer. I'm confusing the two.
Indeed. Heading through 5-6 now with last gen Newt. That's where we expect to see a lot of corner cutting, a 10-second time penalty potentially in the race. Heading up now, turn 8. That was taken very well by here. As this being a street circuit, you don't want to push too early. This is a race where your position might be defined by your qualifying, so you just have to ease yourself into the track, get familiar with the car. It might feel a bit different than it will have in the practice sessions each of these drivers will have done. So you just got to get used to how the car now feels. See last gen Newt there giving quite a bit of space to walls on the inside, but then running out on track limits where he has the space. More technical chicanes, corner tightens up on you a lot, using all the track brilliantly. Through turn 18, now into 19, bring the car back over to the left hand side, now over to the right, downshifting into turn 20. Turn 21 tightens up on you a little bit, so it needs to be careful, but yeah, it gives the track limits a lot of girth there, no need to find the wall. Now heading through the final corner, right up close against the wall, right up against the exit curb, and to the line, it's a 1:29.6. We expect pole to be a 1 minute low, 1:28, but as I said, all these drivers are going to be easing into their first lap, so not a bad banker there from last gen Newt.
Yeah, Ben Mills does top that already, though, by 6/10 of a second, down to 1:29.0 as we ride on board with Apex George to see what kind of lap time they can get across the line. It's a very short shoot, but they only get a 1:33. A little bit of a poor banker lap coming in at the moment, as Liam Doherty with the 1:33 puts it into third position for now. A strong driver overall, but again, with these new cars, it's going to be interesting to see who can really click. But that is a Racing Bulls without a front wing of Dr. Fudgy having some kind of issue somewhere on the circuit.
Yeah, it's just not what you want to see. It's too early to be pushing in qualifying. You just need to get the banker lap. And Alex Lamsdale pushing the final corner into the wall. He did manage to complete his banker lap. Fortunately, there doesn't appear to be much damage, but he'll be coming into the pits anyway. Very lucky to still have that front left attached to his car. You can see a lot of the drivers pushing very hard on the opening laps there.
Yeah, taking a little bit of a risk, a couple of these drivers, but don't necessarily need to take that risk this early on, as we've seen with Dr. Fudgy around again at the back end of the circuit, causing a little bit of a yellow flag. And as you said, that's potentially going to cause an issue off the overtake mode as well. We do see that Newt is still going around on a lap at the moment, but might be just on a quick in lap. Depends if they do pull into the pit lane here. They're actually going for multiple laps back to back on this new generation of cars as they go back towards the line, but with a car right behind, it's not going to be an improvement on that one.
Yeah, the car behind probably would expect you to come in seeing the red light flashing, so perhaps will be impeded slightly. But being a street circuit, a lot of the time you'll find will be just getting familiar with the track. Yes, the tires are going to degrade, but the more laps you do, the more comfortable you get and you make less mistakes. Bit of a silly one though from Dr. Fudgy, missing the front wing. You just got to bring it back to the pits. There's no need to be pushing at this time. You just need to keep the car in one piece and get your laps in.
As we see SS&J jump into P number 7 with a 1:31.259 in that Aston Martin. Luckily, unlike in real life, the Aston Martin isn't going to be training at the far end of the field. We see Charlotte Perking is running right up to the edge of the wall, using the entire limits of the track, but hitting into a yellow flag zone. That's going to impede their back end and the start of the final sector, but still going to try and at least put in a second banker lap potentially. But with so much traffic and yet another yellow flag, this lap might just be a little bit ruined for Charlotte Perkins, trying to find some kind of improvement on that 1:32, and we do see that they will head for that pit lane.
Yeah, not only being a street circuit, being tight and narrow, difficult for the cars to get out of the way. When you do eventually get out of the way, you could be taking boost mode off your rival, so this is a double-edged sword now, catching up to lap traffic on your qualifying laps. As we watch Geek start his second push lap, neatly taken, the first chicane, heading up now down the second straight mode up towards turn 4, all the way across to the left-hand side of the circuit, brings it up the hill towards the chicane of 5 and 6, where you'll see a lot of drivers invalidate, which he has done. That is where a lot of the lap time will be found, to see a lot of drivers pushing very hard. Geek locking up though into turn 8, still pushing on, although he has invalidated.
Yeah, might be just trying to get familiar with the track, even though they've invalidated the lap time, which, to be fair, with how new this circuit is to the game, it is a little bit of a fair tactic. Just make sure you're in a warmed-up form for the circuit, as we're seeing a very laggy Red Bull out in front, teleporting across the top. But Josh Woolley slots in a 1:28.797 as the new fastest man on track in the iconic Williams for that driver, putting it ahead of Ben Mills by about 0.2 of a second, who's just coming back out on track. So we'll ride on board with Newt as well, just doing a little bit of a cool down lap at the moment. Lee going around through the circuit, just trying to warm up those tires, as having them in the right window is going to be so important for a good lap. As we do ride on board with Liam Doherty though in sector number 2, trying to get as much speed running off of this banking as possible, with an Aston Martin ahead, but they are also having an invalidated lap time as well. We've seen quite a lot of people struggle with those at the moment.
Yeah, it's always important to get your bank lap in early. Now that they do have that lap, you can start pushing, you can start invalidating laps, because they'll still have another fresh set of tyres to go on to attempt another lap. We're yet to see competitive laps though from Cool Guy Fassin, Dr. Fudgy and Ben Huskins. I believe Ben Huskins might be having a few internet issues, seen him leave and rejoin the session, but it's good to see him now back out on track.
Yeah, Chris's Pinnacle's teammate moving over to that Cadillac with Ben Huskins, who's also another strong driver in the season, looking for Cadillac and Ferrari to both be very, very strong lineups this season. But also can't be forgetting about McLaren, Williams as well. Audi with Thomas and New is going to be decent as well in there. But then the rest of the teams have decent drivers here or there, but they're the main ones to lock out across this season. As we get on board with Youssef, a driver we see pop into the top 10 here or there a few times across the back end of last season, actually putting in a purple first sector, getting it really nailed on and surviving the chicane and not picking up into track invalidation. This might be a potential chance at getting a huge lap time improvement.
Absolutely, heads through the banking, multiple lines taken by the different drivers as Yusuf now exits the banking, downhill braking in turn 13, nice wide corner, you can really carry the speed through there, as now head through the long curve, turn 15 into 16, turn 17 is quite a tight right-hander, the curb can catch you up, push you wide into the wall, but Yusuf keeping it well within track limits there, now heading down in towards turn 18, turn 19, straight mode going to be activated for the run down into turn 20, technical little right-handed. It's more than 90 degrees as you see the barrier come up towards you. Now heading through turn 21, the barrier creeps up on you, but not as badly as it does through the final corner. Try to avoid the wall on the outside, try to avoid the wall on the inside. Now to the line, Yusuf goes 7th fastest overall.
Yeah, potentially another thing we will see though is people able to pip the fastest sector in just one particular sector due to how much boost they choose to use, and leaving themselves with less in the rest of the lap as we get back aboard with Ben Mills trying to find an improvement with their second time, and they do. They find 1/10 over what Josh Woody did and a 4/10 improvement on themselves.
This will be a great fight to watch between Ben Mills and Josh Woolley, just trading temps between each other. Both of them, I believe, will have one set of softs left, 7 minutes to go. So Josh, I believe, will be saving a set of tyres towards the end. So this will either be a U set or a fresh set that Josh is on his outlap. But yeah, expect these two to be going head to head with each other right to the very end of qualifying.
And lots of storylines between the two, being teammates in lots of previous seasons in a row. But as we get with Alex Lansdale, not able to find a lap time improvement, down 18 seconds, clearly backing out of that one, trying to save, going on to this next flying lap. These lap times, even though this map track it looks quite long, they do still actually roll off quite quickly, only in the 128 seconds, due to some of the strict limits on the corners, allowing for much quicker lap times, as you see him flying through the first of the chicanes where you can really push the track limits. But with a loss of traffic, up 1/10, but it's going to be hard to find and actually maintain any more of that lap time. Stuck behind two pieces of traffic and just trying to nail these corners, but it's going to really start to hit, but just gets both drivers through of that banking and moving out of the way, hopefully not losing too much time as they attack into the second sector.
I remember there being a glitch on the old game where you would get a purple sector 2 despite not actually being purple through that sector. Now, I'm not saying that Yusuf and Alex haven't set purple first sectors, it's just putting the information out there.
Still finding a lap time improvement for Alex Lansdale, potentially not necessarily on that absolutely blistering pace that Ben Mills and Josh Woolley in the 128s are, being only 2/10 up on their own lap time, as you said, with the issue on the sector map, maybe not representative of it actually being a purple sector, but still, at the moment, Alex Lansdale, even with that traffic, finding a bit of an improvement, but as you see, that red dot that is the signification of a derating, running out or regenerating that battery, but towards the line, deploying the rest that they get, and the 129.6 with 6/10 improvement and 4/10 of that all in that last sector.
Yeah, it's a great lap there from Alex Lansdale. Just goes slightly ahead of Liam Doherty, but he'll be back out on track to try and go even faster. He's now right on board with AIDK as we cut to Ben Husky as he tries to complete his first lap of the session. Moves up to 7th. Great opening lap there from Ben Husky. I reckon if he gets back to the pit lane, he has one more in him, and now that he has that banker, he can really push on that final lap.
Josh Woolley also potentially on a flying lap now on a 128.7 as the benchmark, got a really solid first lap under the bell. But Thomas, also a driver who's about to start a lap, but we do go switching over to Josh Woolley, who's got a good time on the board at the moment and really pushes it to the wall. Is it going to be an improvement? It will, and it will pit Ben Mills as well by 0.07 of a second. Josh Woolley putting another needle in the haystack of Ben Mills, who's going to have to try and find another lap time improvement again.
Yeah, both drivers giving it absolutely everything. Josh Woolley getting further into the barrier than I think he would have liked. I think he'll be happy that his car still has that tyre attached to it. But you can just see how much these two drivers are pushing each other to try and get pole round Madring.
As we go to call Guy Fashy, one of two drivers still yet to finish a lap time, and with a yet another invalidated lap, you're going to have to come into the pits, use your final set of tyres, and just put in at least one solid lap. And we see the same with their teammate, Liam Doherty, at least with a banker, but invalidating yet another lap. And again, we switch over to Geek, and it's just another driver with another invalidated lap time as a yellow flag in the back end of Sector 3. Finally, the car does eventually get going, but hopefully not picking up too much damage to denying them a final lap chance.
It's just so easy around here just to run a bit wide, cut a chicane too much. But that is where the lap time is, and these drivers are going to be pushing that as hard as possible. But as I said at the start of the session, they've got their banker laps in, and they can afford to do so. But now you're coming up to your final laps. The track's rubbered in. It's not going to be as quick as this has been before. As we see Thomas nearly into the barrier, bailed out of it. No, it does improve, though, by 3.5 temps. But all the drivers pushing that extremely hard. I'm surprised we haven't seen a DNF because we've seen a lot of drivers hit the exit of the final corner.
Yeah, Thomas still got enough time to regen the battery for this lap and then go one more time. But they're going to have to go on worn tyres. No time to come back into the pit lane if they do want to take another attempt.
Yeah, we see Ben Mills and Last Gen now coming out for their final runs, especially Josh Woolley out as well. It'll be good to see them three fighting. We expect a low 28 to be our pole position, and the top two are getting close to it.
Yeah, Dr. Fudgy potentially finally on a lap, but getting in the way of the Aston Martin, who ends up going through the gravel, but luckily not into the wall, impeding that of the Aston Martin driver, who's going to have to completely back out of their lap. And Dr. Fudgy all over the road, really struggling to hook up themselves a lap in this Racing Bulls car, and even keep it in a straight line at moments.
It looked like Dr. Fudge was on a lap. The red light isn't flashing on the back, so I think he was on a lap, but then must have seen the Aston behind him and decided to get out of the way, which is where I think some of the confusion might have come on from the Aston. And then weaving is always a bit dangerous when you're a lap, when you're being overtaken. You just got to stay predictable. You either get offline or you stay on the line.
As we see Newt with 0.2 of improvement, but got a longer way to go. Got to find roughly 0.7 of a second, and then you got to factor in the potential improvement coming out of Ben Mills and Josh Woolley as well. But currently in P3, we'll want to try and keep that. But with a collision between Apex George and Charlotte Perkins was a quick little bit of a yellow flag up ahead, and a penalty of a grid drop is also dashed out with a sector 3 yellow. Hopefully that clears, as Newt has so much traffic around them, and they're already on a decent bit of a lap here, but they need this traffic to get out of the way. Currently getting past two of them, and with a quick Cadillac in front, hopefully not going to get too much of an effect of dirty air going through this last sector, but losing a little bit of that advantage down to only 1/10 improvement, running all the way out of the wall, and the Cadillac does get out of the way, not getting the track invalidated through that corner as well, pushing back across to the wall, and the green flags do come out just in time for the back end of this tricky sector 3, getting a little bit of a tap onto the end of the wall as well with the side pod of that Audi as he runs into final corner. Again, the yellow flags just blipping in front of him, but clearing just in time, tapping the rear tyre and finding a 0.2 improvement to build the gap over Alex Lansdale on P4.
That is just how close you want to get to these barriers. As we see Ben Mills coming around the final corner, is it going to be an improvement? No, it's not. It seems that he might have bailed out on that lap, so this will be the lap that counts. And Josh Woolley right behind him, so it'll be interesting to see what these two drivers are able to do. As we see Ben Mills now through sector 1, down the second of the straight modes, the little kink of turn 4. As now he heads to chicane, turn 5. This is where all the time can be made. He cuts it to absolute perfection. Now turn 7, little kink. Now technical corner. As you see two cars off in front of him, doesn't appear to be, they are yellow flags. Actually, I take that back. Boost mode will be inhibited out of that slow corner, so he will have lost a little bit of time. As now we head into turn 12, the longest bank corner on the calendar, chooses to take that inside line, the shortest line, and it keeps the car on the right, ready for turn 13. Nice wide corner, misses the wall on the inside a little bit, but uses all the track limits on the exit through the curbs of 15, 16, on the way into 17. Right-hander creeps up on you, hops the curb, uses all the exit, just avoids the barrier, getting perfectly close to these barriers through 18 and 19, the final straight mode of the lap, into turn 20. 90-degree corner, the barrier creeps up on you, avoids it on the inside. Penultimate corner, cuts the inside, avoids the barrier on the exit. The final corner, we've seen a lot of drivers hit the final barrier on the exit. Ben Mills avoids it. Has he found enough time? Yes, he has. Goes to the top with a 1 minute 28.4. But Josh Woolley right behind him. What can he do? Coming through the final corner. He's invalidated.
Josh Woolley with the invalidation at the end. Alex Lansdale also no lap time improvement, will be stuck down in P5 coming into the pit lane, leaving Assassin J to come across the line. Down still in P number 9, but Ben Mills will be a pole sitter after hooking up an amazing lap, even with a little bit of impediment of the yellow flags, and with their rival Josh Woolley crumbling on their final flying lap, secures that pole position. But in the meantime, you also see Luke Sawyer jumping new for that P3 position.
What an end to qualifying we've had. I don't know if we caught it, but Geek and Dr. Fuji both retired during qualifying. Must have been pushing slightly too hard. Hit a barrier, and it's just as easy as that.
Yes, the end of qualifying does come to the end. We're going to have a race of 50% coming on up, and it's going to be interesting to see if these two drivers at the front of the field will be able to stretch their legs just as much as they have done here in qualifying, with that 4 to 5 tenths advantage Ben Mills has found over Luke Sawyer in P3 and 3 tenths for Josh Woolley. But it's all to play for Ben Mills having the front row. But with the safety cars, there's still so many aspects at play. But while we wait for the race to get ahead, we will throw it to a little bit of a quick break. Welcome back to the BUSR once again. As we've seen, just a little bit of an ad from one of the three companies that do help bring this to you guys. NSC, SimStaff, and Grid Finder. We're still joined by Owen Lally. Qualifying was quite nice between the two front rosters.
It was very exciting to watch up at the front. Just looking at the chats, it appears that Josh Woolley was impeded in turn 6, so maybe we didn't see what was fully available there from Josh Woolley. But regarding the grid penalty to Charlotte, depending on how severe that was, we could see a lobby restart in order to get that uninstated.
Yeah, potentially not even with that though, but hopefully with the race it's going to have as little impediments as possible. But we have clearly seen that a couple of the drivers at the back of the grid not necessarily able to keep it the cleanest and impeding a few laps, as we also saw Geek and Fudgy both off in the same corner, potentially getting involved in a bit of an incident together. Hopefully no major issues caused in the race so that Geek can recenter themselves and rebound off of that qualifying performance.
I'm just hoping that the race brings as much excitement as qualifying did, as we now go to 5 red lights and we are underway for the first round of the BUSR Summer Championship. It's a great start there from Ben Mills, able to cover off Josh Woolley quite well. Luke Sawyer trying to move on the outside of turn 1, has the inside for the next part of the lap, but Josh Woolley stays ahead. See some contact behind between the Audis and the Cadillacs. It all seems to be quite a kerfuffle at the back there. We see a car spinning. It looks to be Geek very close there to keep it out of the barrier, as now we sing it side by side up in towards turn 5 and 6. Keep single file staying sensible, but unlucky there for Geek to get caught up in a lap on incident.
Issues compounding as we've seen the Red Bull going side by side and forcing the Cadillac of Ben Huskins into the wall, which will let Alex Lansdale re-get past their own teammate, but nearly losing positions to Assassin J as well. Little bit of front wing damage on that car, clearly visible, and the car is going side by side. We see a spinning Alpine of nearly going around, but able to catch it, but nearly impeding the rest of the field as well. Nice save by Youssef, but dropping all the way down the field to the back of the grid, just like Geek. Still sliding through these corners, still struggling in this early stage on the cold tires, as everyone flooding through the streets with a bit more wing damage coming off of the Audi of Thomas down in P12 as well, as we get a bit of a slowdown through entering into sector number 3 just before it speeds up yet again before we hit the very, very tight and twisty back-U style back end of the track, where everyone's going to go a little bit more single file. But we saw an amazing start out of Ben Mills at the start, getting a huge gap and nearly breaking that 1 second.
The race can't be won on lap 1, but it surely can be lost. Information not relayed to the drivers, but one exciting lap 1 we have had. Unfortunate for Geek to get caught up in the accident. Saw a lot of battling between the two Cadillacs, and now it's Liam Doherty hustling and harrying the back of Alex Lansdale, but not close enough, I think, to make the move into turn 5. But yeah, unfortunate for the spin there from the Alpine. Great catch.
Ben Mills gets a 10-second track limits penalty extremely early on into this race. It's only lap 1. He's already pushing the track to its absolute limits and is already pushed over just a few too many times. Potentially, this is going to have to change how he has to take the rest of this race. And you can see Josh Woolley already hounding and Luke Sawyer able to keep with as well. That gap that was nearly up to a second, already shrinking down just to 5 tenths with the overtake mode enabled here on lap 2. And a yellow flag across the circuit as we're going to get neutralized.
Full track is yellow, so this could be a virtual or a full safety car. Uncertain of which one it is, since our graphic won't update. Then 10 seconds for Ben Mills most definitely is for cutting the turn 5-6 chicane too much. It is just a straight 10 seconds if you do, but that is a very silly mistake there from Ben Mills. But yeah, that's something to serve in the pits. Josh, that is exactly the sort of boost that Josh Woolley needs. It is a virtual safety car, as we saw there on the Marshall board. So race just neutralized, not a full safety car yet. For the Formula 1 games, there can be a maximum of 6 safety cars, including virtuals and full safety cars. So after the 6th safety car, there will not be another, as we now return to green flag racing.
Poor guy Fashy gets a speeding under VSC, but as we get going, Josh Woolley loses a bit of time, but Luke Sawyer right on the rear bumper of Josh Woolley coming out of the final corner, but not able to find any kind of move into turn number 1. I think it's going to be a little bit of a delay as we have to go across the line before that overtake mode reopens up for that increased energy deployment and regen, and the wing's going to open up down through that first sector, but Poor guy Fashy getting another 10 seconds as well as we are going on the board with Apex George just on the back of Thomas, who has no one in front to help give them that overtake mode to defend with. Potentially just a matter of time if Apex George can keep on the back of that Audi driver who's trying to keep on the back end of the top 10, try and keep with the pack, but it's a huge gaggle of cars behind this crowd as we see a car off into the side. Is that Geek yet again getting into the walls, and a second virtual safety car of this race?
I believe that was the Aston Martin of Assassin. Found himself inside the wall. You can see Apex all over the back of Thomas. Thomas missing quite a big portion of his front white wing, so that's why he's susceptible to the Aston Martin behind him. But already a second safety car out of a total of 6, and we're only 3 laps into the race.
Thomas with a huge portion of that wing getting taken off through that incident again. As you said, 6 is the limit, and we're already down 2, heading onto lap number 3. And it's all chaos outside of the top 10. Meanwhile, the top 10, keeping it nice and clear. There we see positions getting Thomas up a nice 4, but sadly, that's going to have to be a pit stop for them. Apex George up a nice 6 with a clean-looking car in their hands. And GMT UFC up 5 positions, open to P number 9.
This is really going to be hurting Ben Mills' chances here for race victory. He needs some green flag running. He needs to allow Sawyer to hassle the back of Josh Woolley, as he's going to right now. Can he try and make the move into turn 1? No, thinks better of it. But Ben Mills, he needs the 2 behind to battle. He needs green flag running because he needs to somehow find 10 seconds before the first pit stop if he's going to maintain the lead.
Luke Sawyer, always a driver we see step up in the races, not necessarily one of the strongest qualifiers, always finding themselves a little bit further down to where they are in the race, but they always go forward almost at every opportunity. Currently still in P3 behind 2 really strong drivers, but Josh Woolley getting a really rough line through that corner will open up a little bit of a gap behind Ben Mills. But again, with that overtake mode, it helps you just stick with the driver just in front across the lap, as you just have a little bit more to play with, even if they're just a little bit faster. But at the moment, Josh Woolley struggling to keep with Ben Mills' raw pace. But Ben Mills does have to still be careful of that 10-second penalty, but doesn't want to leave anything on the line, doesn't want to leave this penalty as a burden that will stop them from any chances, as Apex George takes a really tight line, but as a car right in front and a car right behind, and that Alpine of Youssef is trying to charge back through the field. They should be farther up the grid, and they know it, but it's going to get squeezed out by the Aston Martin all the way out to the wall and into the wall as well, hopefully not picking up any damage on that side wing, but that was a rough piece of contact.
Yeah, we've just picked up a 3rd safety car, unsure of which flavour of safety car it is, and it's the rear end. Youssef goes into the back of the Aston Martin. Horrible incident to have there under safety car for Youssef, already put into the barrier once, and then gets a 10-second time penalty for his troubles.
And caught out by how quickly that Aston Martin did end up slowing down, as we see Dr. Fudgy end up DNFing out of this race. Assassin J still in troubles, and Cool Guy Fashy also down there having issues. But this virtual safety car will give people a chance to fix any damage brought up onto the cars. And we see the entire grid choosing to take a lap-free pit stop, as this is a full-fledged safety car.
Yeah, Dr. Fudgy retired earlier on. Lucky that didn't bring out the safety car. Uncertain of what did. Saw Geek go off in the first sector. It might have been for that or multiple yellow flags on the track. We expect the 1 stop to be around lap 10 for the hard tyres, so a few laps early. But if the drivers can manage the tyres, obviously first time racing here, don't know what to expect. but I think the hards can get to the end. Ben Mills then only down to P6 after serving his 10-second time penalty.
Yeah, he's not losing too many positions. It's a real decent helping effort for him, but he's still going to have to get back through the field. He's still going to have plenty of pace to make this one work. Does give Josh Woolley the lead and Luke Sawyer P2, and we've seen how good Luke Sawyer has been at keeping to the back of Josh Woolley on these race starts already after these VSCs. Hopefully able to replicate the same effectiveness on this safety car. Now Josh Woolley won't have that overtake mode to help defend with no cars in front, but will have an opportunity just to have a little bit of reprieve on the initial race start. But with Newt now also in P3, we know how racy Newt and Alex Lansdale and Liam Doherty all can get. All of these drivers are going to be huge issues for Ben Mills to get past.
Yeah, it's a very tasty front six here. Drivers with a lot of quality. All of them will be gunning for the win, so don't expect any of them to be sitting back and letting drivers through. We saw with Yusuf and Apex what it's like to drive a track for the first time. You're not quite sure where to position the car, where to make moves, where you're going to understeer when you're offline, and you just saw it just caught Yusuf off guard.
Yeah, Yusuf having a bit of a rough race, but again, that safety car able to help a lot of the people who did have damage get back into this one. But unfortunately for Thomas, that does mean that they pit for the front wing, and then the very next lap we get a full-fledged safety car.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, but full course would have brought the cars back together, so it could always be worse off as we now see the positions gained. GMT with an excellent start up to P7. Ben Mills losing 5 positions, having to serve that penalty, and another good start there for Apex George up to 6.
Yeah, a lot of people with heavy rises, not many with massive drops, as we do see that Ben Mills down 3 at the moment, down 5 at the moment, and as we saw with that 10-second penalty. Ben Huskins down 3, as we saw get involved with a little bit of an incident, but Ben Huskins able to again get that little bit of a soft reset, hopefully able to charge back forward up towards Alex Lansdale, their teammate, and then Yusuf in the huge amount of trouble further on down.
We're just waiting for the final car to catch the safety car, but I think it will be in at the end of this lap. So rate dragging not a thing in the game anymore, so expect all the drivers to be weaving quite aggressively, trying to get temperature into the hard tyres. We saw the drivers going off on warmed up soft tyres, so I can't imagine what it's going to be like on cold hards.
Hopefully with the safety car giving them a chance to build up some tyre temperature, it won't be too difficult for them on this initial lap, but it will definitely not be as easy as it was with fully warmed up tyres. But they don't really get a chance to get into the window of with so many VSCs. Lap 6 going to be ticking off the board and going on to lap 7 once the safety car does come in, if it does come in on this lap. Still haven't properly seen the notification unless I missed it.
No, I believe it's because the Aston Martin of Assassin has boxed, so he may not catch the pack before the end of Sector 3. So we might see another lap underneath the safety car.
Fortunately, potential risk of an extension of this safety car, but the safety car does take this lap quite significantly slower due to the technical nature. That's really where the safety car takes longer lap times than these current Gen F1 cars, but can really get use out of being lighter. But as we see, the Assassin J potentially having these issues because of disconnecting and now rejoining back into the lobby, but at much greater speeds now under their own control. Hopefully can catch, but with only a few corners left, this might be extended by that one more lap.
Technical street circuits like this, you always don't want safety cars. Safety car is in this lap. He has managed to catch the end. You know what I was saying, we're about to go back to green flag racing. Josh Woolley's going to be hoping that he's got his hard tyres back to temperature so he can defend from the gaggle of cars behind him.
Josh Woolley going to be in control of the race start, and he chooses to go early in through the first corner, uses the exit line, and does break a little bit of a gap to Luke Sawyer, who's been racing on the back end, who actually has to defend a little bit from Newt as well with the defensive line going through turn 1, but still keep it on the end with a huge tang slapper, nearly clipping the wall, but able to keep it out. Does mean their momentum will be a little bit hampered going out of this corner, and you can see the difference that that's made. Newt able to close that gap just a little bit, going down further. Ben Huskins already on the back of that Mercedes with a nice move down the inside, already straight onto the back of Charlotte Perkins, but into the wall, getting a little bit too close to the back of Charlotte Perkins and potentially tapping and then hitting the far side wall, and that will be race over. And safety car or VSC again, we're very quickly running to the 6 limit.
So unfortunate for Ben Huskins. It was an excellent move into turn 5. He judged it so well. We just got checked up by Charlotte Perkins. So something must have happened in front. Just hit the rear end and then lost the front into the barrier. Such an unfortunate incident there for Ben Huskins. You can see from Luke Sawyer what cold hards can do. The rear just sliding out a little bit. Very lucky to still be in this race, having made contact with the outside barrier.
Yeah, able to keep it out of any major issues, unlike Ben Huskins, whose race is unfortunately over before we even get really any proper racing action going, as we get Ben Mills still in P6. No changes to the front of the grid then off of that race restart. Charlotte Perkins down in P8, High DK back into P9 after getting overtaken in a phenomenal fashion. Thought they closed out the edge just enough, but in the end, not enough. GMT UFC, though, will pick up some damage and will have to get that front wing repaired.
Yeah, I believe I saw the Aston Martin in P16 Apex with front wing damage as well, so expect him to box as well. I was hoping that the race would throw up chaos like this, and it has made it very exciting, and we are on safety car number 4 of 6, and we haven't even reached lap 10. 2 safety cars left and 19 laps of racing.
A more significant portion of the race to go, and we're going to run out. At least that will mean we're going to get green flag running if we do run through these quite quickly. But this is just meaning these drivers are just going to get to save these tires and extend their life even further, making this one stop even more easy and more likely.
GMT's gone for a gamble here. He's gone off his hard tyres onto the mediums. Hopefully can provide him with some better grip on the safety car restart against people on cold tyres. Technical street circuits like this, you really want green flag running because you want to be able to work your way into the circuit, get comfortable with the car you have underneath you, get used to the amount that you can cut the chicane, for example, at turn 5. But this inconsistency in running is what's throwing up a lot of these issues and crashes, and safety cars do cause safety cars.
Yeah, safety cars breeding safety cars. A quote that has been renowned across all of motorsport. I think more applicable to oval racing most of the time, but not necessarily incorrect for street tracks either. As the main track where you don't necessarily see this occurring is the traditional race circuits with these street tracks with the walls right against you. Having the cars clustered up together just increases the risk of making contact. But it's going to be interesting to see then, is Apex Jaws going to be able to catch up to the back of this grid? And Cool Guy Fashi, unfortunately, picking up a penalty either going into the pit lane or while trying to catch up to the safety car.
I think GMT is someone to keep your eye on, as well as Ben Mills. Ben Mills, the amount of laps that he has to get back to the front is getting massively reduced, but GMT has gambled onto medium, so expect him to make a lot of moves on the next safety car restart. Don't believe it will be in this lap, so the drivers will get one more lap to warm their tyres before the restart.
Yeah, Apex George will catch the back of this field, but already heading into this final corner. And 2 drivers faking a potential pit entry, as we do see one of the drivers at the very back. But GMT caught with a yellow flag infringement. As you said, the driver potentially in a huge chance ended up taking to the pit lane once again. Maybe switching tire compounds. Maybe didn't actually mean to change tires.
That's a very interesting one there from GMT, because he has come into the pit lane, so that might be one of those penalties where he's overtaken somebody on the pit exit, because the pit exit cuts inside of the final corner, and then the game's gone, oh, you've overtaken someone, 10-second time penalty. Well, obviously that's not the case because he's come into the pit lane. And you can see Liam Doherty, Ben Mills trying to play a few mind games there, trying to drag each other into the pits, but experienced heads don't fall for things that easily.
Mind games being played. You do love to see that these drivers are trying to get each other to be caught out napping in this one, but really unlikely to take a pit entrance at that specific point in time. GMT should be able to catch up to the safety car, ideally so we don't have another lap under the safety car. With 9 laps already gone, we're going to go past into lap number 10 once the safety car comes in, unless it's extended by another lap, leaving us with only not over 20, no, my English is failing me. Over 40% of this race nearly gone already.
There we go. GMT's very lucky, actually, to get that time penalty in the nature that he did. He was going to come out in last anyway, and having to serve that 10 seconds has cost him absolutely nothing, because he was going to box anyway. So GMT looks like he is on the hard tyres again, trying to do something interesting with the strategy. Interesting to see where he ends up at the end of this one, as we do get a notification that safety car will be in this lap, and it's Josh Woolley again on the restart.
With the safety car getting to go much sooner, this gives a bigger time window for Josh Woolley to decide when to start. He won't need to start on that final corner unless he decides to do so, as the gap will build big enough to the safety car. We did see that Cool Guy Fashi did end up colliding with Assassin J, hopefully not causing any diffuser damage. But when will Josh Woolley decide to time this? He decides to go one corner early, but he also, and then try to charge away once again, but it doesn't catch. Luke Sawyer napping too hard this time around again. Luke Sawyer really engaged and switched on, never losing it out too hard on these race restarts. We get a yellow flag sector 1 again on this restart, just denying any opportunities to get an overtake. But Luke Sawyer really engaged, really trying to get down the inside of Josh Woolley with an amazing run, but Josh Woolley able to use a little bit of extra energy and just box him out, keep it in that position for now. But we know Luke Sawyer's going to know that he's dumped quite a lot, but Newt is also going to try and sniff, try and use that battery that he's been able to save, while these two try and go at it to try and make something work. As we go down the other one, we see that Thomas is really losing a bit of time, same with Assassin J, but he's top 3 pulling away from Alex Lansdale, who's got a car trying to go all to every side of him. Liam Doherty trying to just move as far forward as possible, as he knows Ben Mills is so racy, but we're not able to find the gap even into this corner, but still forced to go defensive to block off Ben Mills's attempt to go through on the inside as well. Trying to have to defend and attack at the same time, a skill not many drivers can master, but Liam Doherty showing some prowess over it at the moment.
Yeah, Ben Mills just applying the pressure here, trying to see if he can force a mistake out of Liam Doherty and maybe get an easy move. But Liam Doherty also applying the pressure to Alex Lansdale up in front. So it'll be interesting to see what happens between these three. Looked like a little bit of wing damage in the background. But yeah, after turn 5, it is just single file. Really difficult to make a move after that opportunity. So you just got to keep your front wing clean. Ben Mills, little bit of contact there with the front of Liam Doherty, really trying to get in front here. As we now head to the best overtaking opportunity of the track, turn 1. This is where the battery is going to be dumped for all 3 drivers. But Liam Doherty gaining a lot on Alex Lansdale, but not trying the overtake on this particular occasion.
Not getting a good enough run through that sector. We've seen a couple of better runs through the second activation of the wing flaps, giving a bit of a better opportunity, but no one of these top 6 drivers close enough to make anything work. The overtake mode is getting into effect again for these drivers, so they're going to have that advantage of that ERS, and it will just build as an advantage across the laps for a little bit of time, as Cool Guy Fashi ends up retiring out of the race, and potentially another car in the wall as well of Thomas in the back end of sector number 1. But we end up seeing Ben Mills actually having to take quite a defensive line. Charlotte Perkins gets through, and Liam Doherty's all the way down to 8th position. Suddenly, still able to block out IDK, but something happened as we transition over that allowed Charlotte Perkins to jump all the way up to P5, and Alex Lansdale is 1.2 seconds down the road.
That must be a collision on the exit of turn 11, going on to the turn 12 banking. Liam Doherty and Ben Mills obviously finding each other. We saw before that Ben was all over the back of Liam, and the two of them must have found each other. It doesn't look like either of them have got damage, but this is what neither of them needed for their races.
Both losing out. Ben Mills keeping the same position, Liam Doherty losing out too, but both losing a significant amount of time. But Charlotte Perkins able to rein in Alex Lansdale just a little bit on the back end of this lap, showing a decent bit of pace of themselves. Alex Lansdale potentially just trying to save some of that ERS at the moment, but Ben Mills really feisty on the back end. You can see the pace advantage that he has. It's going to get all over the back end of Charlotte Perkins, but it's going to be overtake mode versus overtake mode. Does Ben Mills have the battery to try and get it down the inside? No, gets boxed out successfully by Charlotte Perkins as they all push through that chicane, using all of the track limits left available, but not able to find it, as we see a huge lockup from Charlotte Perkins, potentially getting themselves a flat spot going through sector 2.
Yeah, coming out of turn 6, it really is single file. As we see Geek into the wall on turn 6, turn 8, the corner I was just talking about. That's unfortunate for him. Don't know whether he was going for a move, whether it was just a lockup. but that is most of the front wing missing. As we now cut back to the live action, Ben Mills trying to make a move on Charlotte. Charlotte goes a bit deep, and Ben Mills invites himself to go on the inside and gets back up behind Alex Lamsdale. Is he going to try the outside move? Yes, he is deploying all of the battery. Nice double overtake there from Ben Mills.
Yeah, just having a huge battery advantage over Alex Lansdale and just having the momentum chain off of overtaking Charlotte Perkins. But that was coming off of the back of Liam Doherty having a sniff down the inside of Ben Mills, not able to make that one work, and it's ended up turning into Ben Mills making two, and Liam Doherty stuck through this final sector.
I'm as gobsmacked as you are. That was an incredible overtake there. I don't know whether it was the difference. Obviously, this year, instead of DRS, we have boost mode, which allows you to deploy more. Maybe that is something that Ben Mills had, and Alex Lamsdale did him a excellent overtake there. And Liam Doherty is going to be very annoyed for what could have gone for one position up, seeing that driver then make two.
Luke Sawyer picks up a 3-second penalty at the front of the grid, but Liam Doherty on the back of Charlotte Perkins is really up on the back end. We've seen Charlotte Perkins be able to defend a move here before. Will Liam Doherty find a gap that wasn't able to be found by Ben Mills? Even trying the outside line, taking a bit of a contact through the chicane as well. Hopefully not picking up any damage, as the next tighter chicane, not going to find any opportunities there.
Yeah, coming out of turn 6, the second overtaking opportunity, you just have to stay single file. Yes, you can get the better exit. Yes, you can try alternative lines, but it's just so tight. You're going to end up making a collision, and you have to wait till this here, the turn 12 banking. Liam Doherty right on the arse of Charlotte Perkins. Looks to the inside, going to become the outside. Excellent move there for Liam Doherty. A little bit of risk, but beautiful move.
Nice little dummy, brings out Charlotte Perkins a little bit wide and then just slices it through, and already chasing down that of Alex Lansdale, but that gap to Ben Mills already growing out a little bit. That's the race that Liam Doherty wants to be keeping up with, but all this time trying to get past Charlotte and Alex Lansdale is time lost to Ben Mills. But getting a decent run on Alex Lansdale again, even in this tight bit, forces a lockup, and a nice little bit of a switchback comes on through. Alex Lansdale goes a little bit too deep, able to cover off Charlotte Perkins, but an amazing move comes out from Liam.
That's what can happen when you're under pressure, not necessarily needing to make the overtake, just wait for the driver in front of you to make a mistake. And is that a little bit of front wing damage? Not even a little bit, both end plates missing on the side of that Cadillac.
Yeah, huge tan splaffer through that final sector corner as well. Maybe picking up a little bit of side pod damage as well. But Alex Lansdale really struggling for pace, backing up all the drivers behind him after they slowly get by. This has brought Alpha 0112 into the fray as well, catching up to the back end of Charlotte Perkins.
We look back to the front of the grid. We go back to Luke Sawyer picking up that 3 seconds, just giving Josh Woolley that little bit of a breather that he needs. Yes, Luke Sawyer can make the move, but with that 3 seconds, all Josh needs to do is stay within that 1 second, so not what he needs. And Ben Mills now technically on the podium with that penalty, so it's a good recovery so far from Ben Mills. As we now cut back to the live action, as we see Alpha trying to make a move on the outside, gets pushed into the wall, and there's a collision between Alpha and Charlotte.
Both keep the cars on the road, but both of them picking up a substantial amount of damage. You can see the damage on Alpha. Charlotte getting spun around as well. Alpha now having to try and box out to defend another position, and Charlotte Perkins around, hopefully trying not to get hit by that Haas, who does fly on by, and the yellow flags don't lead to enough a set of safety cars this time around, but very dangerously potentially could have, as we see Alpha just falling down the grid with heavy sustained damage.
Yeah, had the initial contact on the exit at turn 12. Charlotte Perkins just trying to squeeze Alpha to the exit. Must not have realised how far along he was and made contact. And then it appears that Alpha must have just ran straight into the back of Charlotte, causing a spin. And you can just see Alpha here missing a lot of his front wing. Still trying to stay racy with the Aston Martin. But yeah, going to need to pit for that damage.
Ben Mills set the fastest lap of the previous lap. That's been responded by Josh Woolley now. But Ben Mills has caught up to this front trio and is now in eyesight of that winning position, and he does not want to let that go. Getting into the overtake mode, but will now give him better overtake management as well. And with 3-second gap over Liam Doherty, potentially able to just try and find a rhythm with plenty of laps to go.
I was hoping this race would throw up something special, and it most definitely has. All the drivers, it might be the first time on this track, but they're all getting extremely racy and making some incredible overtakes.
New track, new cars, but familiar faces, all know how each other work, all trying to play mind games on each other, as we've seen some drivers going into the pit lane for their damage. These drivers at the front, though, not sustaining any at the moment, and just a few penalties getting in the way of Luke Sawyer and Ben Mills earlier has really thrown up a treat.
You see a yellow flag there in Sector 2, and it is Assassin, who appears to have spun at the same corner that Charlotte Perkins has spun. Not what he needs, but large gaps behind means that he will retain P10. Ben Mills right up the arse end of Last Gen U. Can he try and make the overtake? But as you can see, all the drivers all within half a second of each other.
Yeah, Luke Sawyer is the closest we've seen him be on Josh Woolley in a decent while, but not able to find anything at the moment. Potentially just happy to stick behind for now. This is a long race to go, but Luke Sawyer does have that penalty over looming as we see another car stuck around in sector number 2. It's one of the blue cars, and I think it's Charlotte Perkins again finding another issue.
Yeah, coming out the pit lane on cold tyres, it's a really technical corner up there at turn 8. You see them coming through now. It's so easy just to lock the tyre and run a bit wide.
Liam Doherty gaining a little bit of time behind Josh Woolley, who is having to go defensive through some of these corners, which is slowing up the potential pace that he could be running. But at the moment, got decent pace over Liam Doherty, as we do see Charlotte Perkins also picking up a penalty for multiple warnings as well, which just means that that race is just going to compound even further, unfortunately. Down in P15. The moment Liam Doherty is just outside of this top 4 battle, and Alex Lansdale has had a bit of a tough race down in P6, but in a little bit of no man's land at the moment, trying to hold on with that front wing damage.
Luke Sawyer really needs to try and make this move on Josh Woolley without 3-second time penalty, not just for his chances for the win, but also for his chances for the podium. As it stands right now, he would be down in P4, but Liam Doherty is closing, so that could even end up being P5. And as we see Charlotte Perkins retire from the race.
Yellow flag out through sector number 1, where Charlotte Perkins did retire that car, but no safety cars caused this time around. Now that we've had 4 in total, the game's being a little bit more stricter on trying to put out of these safety cars as we go again through this zone of the wings being leveled out. It does give them increased top speed, but with all 4 cars getting it, unlike the DRS era cars, Josh Woolley is able to offset that gain, even if it's just a little bit.
This is where the tactics are going to start coming out for these drivers. Where can they save more boost than the driver in front of them? Are they going to be analysing what lines do the drivers take, for example, through the banking? Where are they looking a bit vulnerable? Where can I use my boost over them to try and make the move? But we've seen overtakes cause retirement, so they need to just stay a little bit patient, see where they can guarantee the move, save up a bit of battery, and then deploy, and then go absolutely for it.
Ben Mills clearly having some pace, able to move around the track just a little bit more, trying to send a little bit of a dummy onto Newt, try and drag Newt a little bit off of the back of Luke Sawyer to try and make this overtake possible, but all sticking right together with this overtake mode, keeping them nice and tucked in. But Ben Mills is going to send an absolute dive bomb and actually collides with Luke Sawyer, who ends up blocking up into the corner, going a little bit tighter and slower than what Ben Mills expected. Doesn't leave the room, but no, has significant damage on the side of Ben Mills' car is visible, but Luke Sawyer might have picked up some side pop damage as well.
Yeah, Ben Mills wanting to make that overtake sooner rather than later, and it has nearly cost him. Very lucky not to have front wing damage. Would like to see Last Gen U and Luke Sawyer's car, see if they picked up any damage, because it appeared them two also got into a collision. But yeah, just a bit of impatience there from Ben Mills. Clearly has the pace over the cars in front of him, but just needs a little bit more patience to pick his moves out a little bit better.
Hopefully not having a substantial amount of damage, if any, but at the moment that's brought Liam Doherty right onto the back of Ben Mills, which maybe will bring Liam Doherty back into this play even further for these top 5 positions.
Yeah, it's going to be the absolute music to the ears of Josh Woolley. Now 8/10 gap, he's going to be trying to deploy all that battery. Can he break the 1 second? And then this race is going to be a lot more comfortable for him. But with 2 safety cars to go, 2 safety cars left that could be deployed, who knows what could happen.
Woolley, the only driver out of the top 5 to have a 0 incidents in the box at the moment. No issues in the pit lane, no issues on track, no issues with other drivers, whereas all 4 drivers behind have had at least something in this race. Liam Doherty, probably the best off of the remaining ones after that send by Ben Mills.
You say that. It appears he's got right front wing damage, so could that potentially be inhibiting his pace and why he's running wide through some of the corners as we watch on board with his car?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily so sure where that was picked up. Maybe tapping a wall a little bit too heavily, just tapping off maybe a loosened front wing bit from earlier incidents for themselves, as Ben Mills clearly having something wrong with the car. That pace that they had falling off, not able to catch back up to that of Newt. But we see Newt and Luke Sawyer both picking up a multiple warnings penalties at the same time.
Yeah, this is a circuit where all your pace comes from getting close with the track limits, and it is just so easy to get 3 seconds. Very uncharacteristic, though, of Luke Sawyer and Last Genuine to be picking up these penalties. We see Alex Lamsdale into the pit lane. Expect the incident rate to go down slightly. We see some larger gaps appearing in the field, but our top three still absolutely nose to tail.
Sawyer's been able to catch back up that gap. It was nearly over a second, but he's now right back on the backside of Josh Woolley, who maybe is just trying to save those tires for the end, just to make sure that nothing can get out of hand for themselves and that everything will stay in control for the entire duration. Knowing that Luke Sawyer has a penalty, knowing that Newt has a penalty, Ben Mills and Liam Doherty both with damage, not able to catch back up to this top three. Maybe just playing it in the long run and just being willing to tank a little bit of time now.
Whatever damage Alex Lamsdale had, he's clearly had enough that he's come in to repair his front wing. Has come out in a nice bit of clean air, 3.5 seconds to the car in front. Hopefully he can put some laps in, maybe try and get back into the top 10. But yeah, these front three gonna need to try and make the overtake on Josh Woolley. Josh in an absolutely brilliant position here. The next closest person without a penalty is Ben Mills, but he's over 2 seconds behind. So all Josh Woolley needs to do now is just defend for the remaining 9 laps of this race.
Yeah, and Josh Woolley can really try and back up these drivers into Ben Mills as much as possible, because Ben Mills is not catching at any kind of rate and can really just lean into optimizing for straight line speed. But he's still got to be careful, as you can see the speed out of Luke Sawyer on the exit of the corner, but maybe just running out of battery to get that top end speed. But really does get some really nice runs through that sector, but it's just so hard to try and make anything work up at the top of this crest.
Yeah, it just shows how effective boost mode and straight line mode is in this particular game, able to close on Josh Woolley so much. But the nature of Madring, you have to be alongside into those chicanes, because afterwards it is just single file. There's absolutely no hope of making an overtake. But Luke Sawyer is going to keep hustling and harrying the back of Josh Woolley to see whether he can force some sort of error and easily slip through.
Alex Lansdale getting up behind Alpha, who had their own fair issues in this race as well, Charlotte Perkins earlier on, but at the moment going side by side, trying to make this one look a little bit easy with a nice inside run through into this chicane and having no issues flying on by on this occasion.
I said to keep an eye on GMT after the safety car, and he's managed to make his way all the way back up to P7. Yes, he does have that 3 seconds, but it's a good recovery from getting that 10 seconds and in last after the safety car restart.
Apex George nicely up into P6 as well, 26 seconds though off of the back of the top 6. A clear gap in how many issues have occurred and pace between that and the top 5. But a nice little drive from Apex George, just keeping it clean, no penalty to their name as well. One of only a few drivers on the back end of this grid who have yet to pick anything up.
Yeah, he's putting that Aston Martin in place as the real life Aston Martin only wishes it could be in. But yeah, great race from him so far.
So the tension is still going to be in this top end of the field. Luke Sawyer really, again, it's just the top of the crest is where Luke Sawyer is finding the time of Josh Woolley, and it's probably not the most ideal spot to actually be quicker than.
Yeah, here we go. Luke Sawyer is now within 2 tenths going into the banking. Now just needs to deploy all the battery. Can he have a look towards the inside? Josh Woolley's not even going to go defensive. Is he close enough? No, he's not. That's the closest that he's looked in a while. But it just appears that Josh Woolley just seems to be faster in all the right places, and Luke Sawyer just cannot make the move.
Yeah, Josh Woolley seems to have already picked up a bit of a read of where Luke Sawyer is fast, where Luke Sawyer is struggling, and is now just trying to optimize the boost around what Luke Sawyer is doing. We did see that Alex Lansdale was at the fastest lap of the race. This race isn't completely over for Alex Lansdale. He's still got up to P6, but it's potentially all still achievable.
Yeah, I mean, there's that big 26-second gap between, well, the rest of the field and the front, but Alex Lansdale, with the current laps that he's pumping in, he could easily take that P6 off Apex George.
But that lap count is currently dwindling, and with that 3 seconds, it might be a little bit out of range to get P6, but 4 seconds to GMT, and then only a little bit further is IDK in front of that, so not too far away, and doesn't need to do more than a second to make that one achievable.
Yeah, keeping on board with our front three. Luke Sawyer still applying all the pressure to Josh Woolley, and he's just dealing with it so well as he has been able to for the past few seasons. We know the type of driver Josh Woolley is, and he's just going to keep doing what he needs to do. He knows what he needs to do, and it might be a bit of a boring end to this race, but Ben Mills, he's managed to find those 2 seconds and come back into the top 4 fight.
Liam Doherty ending up off into the circuit, potentially in the wall in sector 2 at the top of that crest. We've seen so many issues there, seemingly not with any more extensive set of damage, but still end up going off, maybe a lockup, maybe off into the little bit of the gap between the wall that is there at the top of the crest, but something going completely wrong. We've seen Ben Mills adjust to the damage, find some pace to get back up to this top 4, who may also just been going a little bit slower with the lines that Josh Woolley is taking, and now also hitting traffic, but Liam Doherty not able to currently survive the damage that they withhold.
Yeah, very lucky for Liam Doherty that he had such a large gap behind him, could afford to make those mistakes. Maybe he knew he had that gap and was just trying to push to try get back into the top 4, but now could have potentially picked up more damage. Does he need to pit? Just needs to try and get the car home now.
With 20 seconds to Apex George and the pace, what we do know Liam Doherty has, potentially could factor in going for a pit stop to get that front wing damage changed, but might also just opt to just survive to the end now. Now there's 17 seconds ahead. No need to fully push, just secure where you are.
Yeah, Ben Mills just hovering around that 1 second 8/10 mark behind Last Gen U. Last Gen U doesn't appear to be applying too much pressure to the back of Luke Sawyer. All the pressure is Luke Sawyer onto the back of Josh Woolley, but Josh Woolley keeps doing what he's doing. Luke Sawyer once again within 2 temps going into the banking, but Josh knows that he's going to have saved his battery, he deploys it and is able to pull away, and Luke Sawyer just not able to get close in the places where it matters.
Needed to see an adaptation from Luke Sawyer without sacrificing too much pace to make this overtake work. And Ben Mills, as you said, he doesn't need to get these overtakes for P2. He knows he's had a lot of damage. He might, and he knows these laps are dwindling away. Might just be at a point where obviously you're never going to want to give up on the race win, but will definitely be happy to still get P2 with the penalties ahead.
It's not worth. We've seen the overtakes he's tried to go for before, how much it could have cost him. It's probably in his nature just to sit back. He knows he's going to get the positions on the 2 in front of him, and with how racy Luke Sawyer's looking, he could still potentially pick up the race victory if there is a collision between the top 2.
Like Sawyer, not necessarily what a driver would see get into too many incidents. Obviously involved in one here, but it is obviously partly because he took a slower line than that Ben Mills potentially could have expected, leaving less gap for Ben Mills to dive down into. But it looks like never really a driver you see cause collisions themselves, but always the risk at a circuit like this where you don't necessarily know, and with the laps dwindling down, desperation can always rise.
Yeah, still getting close through the turn 7, 8, 9 complex as we head onto the banking, and he's just not able to get as close as he wants to. But yeah, Luke Sawyer with that 6 seconds, that'll be on the back of his mind. He'll know that his finishing position will end up still being a podium, because Last Gen U behind does have 3. No, wait, no, because he would finish behind because he's got 6.
Yeah,
sorry,
before.
Ignore me. So yeah, he'll be thinking, is it worth risking his current P4 for the race win? It would be a race win on track, but yeah, as you said, he's not one to go for rash overtakes. But if he can just force an error out of Josh Woolley, if he just opens the door, Luke Sawyer will definitely send it.
As a driver yourself, previously of the BUSR, how do you feel in this kind of situation?
You just gotta stay sensible. I was in a situation like this a few years ago in Montreal. There was just nose to tail, and Montreal's a circuit where it's so easy to pick up a time penalty. And we've seen here today, time penalties can absolutely ruin a race. But you end up getting into a state where you're just copying the driver in front. You're just following the lines that they do. And sometimes if the driver in front cuts a corner, you also cut a corner. So it's just making sure that you use your own brake markers. And I'm gonna stop talking because Luke Sawyer's got an excellent run now out of turn 3. tries to move on the outside, is going to become the inside. Josh Woolley, can he defend it? Yes, he will. And that is the closest we've seen Luke Sawyer get in a while. Tries to move on the outside, nearly costing him. Last Gen Ute now trying on the outside of the hill, going to get a bit tight, and Luke Sawyer, trying to make an overtake, has now lost one to Last Gen Ute. And Ben Mills, can he make the move on the inside? No, thinks better of it.
Yeah, having to back out very late on that move, really put that nose deep on the inside. Last Gen Ute, no, the benefactor of the issues for Luke Sawyer, but this has pulled a gap. This is going to grow maybe to the borderline 1 second. Luke Sawyer is going to get a run on Last Gen Ute, but sticks the nose in a little bit too late. Last Gen Ute trying to squeeze on out, and this is just going to open up an opportunity for Ben Mills, but Luke Sawyer slams it in his face.
Desperation there from Luke Sawyer. Managed to get an excellent run there on Josh Woolley. Josh knew exactly where to position his car, managed to defend the corner, got Luke Sawyer offline, and Last Gen Ute, Wily Old Fox, he saw the opportunity and he went for it. On the outside of turn 8, a corner where we've seen a lot of drivers go off, managed to keep it on track, and then on the exit of turn 12, Luke Sawyer trying a little bit of a dive, trying to get the position back, but didn't manage to do it. But now Luke Sawyer all over the back of Last Gen Ute. The same pressure he was applying to Josh Woolley is now being applied to Newt, as Josh Woolley now starts to run away with it.
Will Newt be able to fend off against Luke Sawyer? Luckily for Newt, the penalties aren't on an even affair, but still Luke Sawyer is going to try and get that on-track finishing position for the credit. Gets a nice little run again on the back of Newt, but it's not as strong as it was on Josh Woolley, and it's going to fade just before this corner at the moment for Luke Sawyer this time around.
Yeah, Ben Mills is going to be watching this. He's going to be hoping that Luke Sawyer goes for another move and he can do what Last Gen Ute did to Luke Sawyer. But excellent driving from all of them to keep it out of the barrier. We've seen how easy it is to lose a front wing, as Luke Sawyer now tries the inside of turn 12. Turn 11, as now they head on to turn 12. Is going to have the inside line, the shorter run. Last Gen Ute has the banking. If he can stay ahead, he'll have the inside line as they head down in towards turn 13. Going to be trying different levels of battery. Does Last Gen Ute go for the dive? No, he does not. Luke Sawyer makes up the position again.
Nice little bit of a move, and side by side through that entire complex. We know where Luke Sawyer's been at his absolute fastest, and he's always been up at the top of that crest. This time though, unlike against Josh Woolley, able to get the run through into the banking corner and just run it side by side, and then just puts a little bit of a squeeze while the front end is in front of Last Gen Ute. And that now opens up the opportunity for Newt to get dove by Ben Mills again. We had an issue here last time and will get squeezed out yet again. Doesn't end with any kind of contact like it did last time, but still stuck behind on the corner where Ben Mills has sent now 2 desperate overtakes.
Yeah, he does love a dive bomb into turn 20, and it just doesn't seem to be working for him. The tyres on all these cars, the tyres on the top 5 are going to be absolutely dying off. The safety car where they boxed under came out on lap 5. They needed to box on lap 10, so these tyres well past their sell-by date. And this is the first time they're racing around here, so they wouldn't have known that. As we see Ben Mills, is he going to have a look? No, he can't. Not close enough yet. No need to risk it because he knows he's getting the positions in front.
Luke Sawyer right back again onto the back end of Josh Woolley for the exact same sector, but he's seen how to make the move work onto Newt through this sector. Can he replicate it against Josh Woolley, or is Josh Woolley's defense and battery management just up to snuff to deny these opportunities? The lines he takes are just a little bit tighter, and it's just not opening up that gap for Luke Sawyer.
Yeah, Luke's really good there to get back on the rear end of Josh Woolley. Josh knows exactly where to position his car, knows he needs to be on the inside of turn 12. It's what undid Last Gen Ute, allowed Luke Sawyer to get up the inside, and then just has that shorter run around the banking. Even if you are doing the same speed, he will end up pulling ahead, and then by the time you get down towards turn 13, he's too far ahead to be able to repass.
Yeah, the pass repass that we're seeing in real life not necessarily coming into a fruition here. These drivers actually having a huge difficulty just to get these nailed on overtakes landing in the first place, which really leaves both drivers too low on battery to do a repassing opportunity as well, as Luke Sawyer drifting off a little bit. This is one of the furthest gaps he's had going through that final corner.
Yeah, you just think now with the laps coming down that Luke Sawyer, even if he did make the move, would not be able to get the 6 seconds, but you still try it anyway. You don't know what could happen. You don't know what incidents could follow behind, and he will keep applying the pressure. But as I said before, Josh Woolley works wonders under this kind of pressure, and Luke Sawyer, he can keep trying, but Josh Woolley, he's going to put up a stern defense.
going through to the top of the crest every single time. We see just how close they are. Ben Mills, sorry, actually trying to find the outside line against Newt, but he just gets so tight that Ben Mills will be pushed out wide, and Newt will be able to keep that position on lockdown for now and lock out Ben Mills once again. But looking down the grid, Alex Lansdale has had enough pace to get all the way up to P6, even with that significant gap that was up to Apex George.
You now see another yellow flag up at turn 8. Not sure who that's for. Might be Thomas, I believe. The dot appears to be red. We are seeing a few incidents up at that corner, but now we're getting towards the end of the race. Just need to bring the car home. Cut back to the live action at the front, and it is still nose to tail between the top 4. And as you said, great recovery from Alex Lansdale. Made that pit stop and is able to recover all the way back up to P6.
But he still needs to grow that 3-second gap over Apex George in just a lap and a half. But Newt gets a really bad run through that corner. This might open up an opportunity really far on the back end now of Luke Sawyer. That slipstream potentially going to be a little bit weaker, and this might be one of the better opportunities that Ben Mills has, as there's now a clear gap for him to try and send a dive down.
Yeah, Ben Mills isn't going to care that he's going to get this position after the race. He wants the podium on track, and crucially, Last Gen New, he's teetering on the edge of that 1 second. Could he lose boost mode, and could this be the opportunity that Ben Mills has been waiting for as we now head on to the last lap of the Grand Prix?
1 second, it's still on that edge. Newt isn't able to get back in through the chicane. Will it grow? Will it shorten? At the moment, it looks like it's going to shorten as Luke Sawyer is stuck behind Josh Woolley, who is definitely driving at a bit of a slower pace than what he was during qualifying. Just making sure to save these tires and have no issues to the end. Just clean and precise. A drive that you would love to see it in previous seasons come out more regularly from Josh Woolley, but finally in this season, proving that he can drive in this such dominant manner when the pace is truly there for himself as well. Luke Sawyer is going to have only 1 or 2 more chances, but they're going to be razor thin chances, running up to the edges of the walls, using every bit of the track.
Yeah, Luke Sawyer just has not had an answer for Josh Woolley, and he's just driven an absolutely fantastic race. We've seen mistakes from drivers up and down the field, and yes, he had that issue in qualifying, but he's been absolutely clinical today in the race.
Ben Mills not losing a bit of time, and the one issue we've seen from Josh Woolley all race long might come to haunt him at the end. A lock up through that corner, but able to box out Luke Sawyer at the last second, nearly with an outside move coming out from Luke Sawyer, but defending it off, and in a clinical fashion, Josh Woolley will win the first race of BUSR Summer 2026.
Yeah, it's a great victory there from Josh Woolley. Exactly how you want to start your championship campaign. Liam Doherty, we see him get into a few incidents and is just able to bring that car home. Same for Alex Lansdale. Probably the best finishes they both could have hoped for, considering the incidents that they got into during the race. Apex George in P7, excellent finish for him. He had a great race. GMT down in 11th, seems to have picked up 10 seconds worth of penalties, having been at a height of P7, but it's just great to see all these drivers come across the line after all the incidents that we've seen during the race.
And we did actually see the safety cars eventually fall away and give us some racing. But again, nice race from Alex Lansdale to have enough pace to gap Apex by 3 seconds at the end there as well. Definitely helped by the Noah tires at the end, but a round of applause once again for that top 4, the racing they put on all across this race. And it wasn't like there wasn't other drivers in the fray. Liam as well, Apex, Charlotte Perkins had moments in there, and Ben Huskins with that unfortunate DNF as well thrown in on the back end, potentially making a collision with Charlotte Perkins. Still unsure exactly what happened there.
Yeah, just receiving information that apparently Josh Woolley had damage from lap 3, so could explain why Luke Sawyer was faster through those slower speed corners.
Even if that is the case, it is an impressive drive, made even more impressive with potential light damage on Josh Woolley's car, but he was able to fend off for the entirety of the race, and it was a masterclass. And a well-deserved podium for the driver who has been lacking one of these for quite some time.
Yeah, Chris is going to be watching this, seeing that the drop around that he's had is going to be a Josh Woolley win. The 2 people that are going to be closest to him in the championship are probably going to be Josh Woolley and Ben Mills, and they get a 1-2 maximum points for both of them. So it'll be interesting to see if Chris can come back and mount a challenge.
At least his teammate Lucas Sawyer is up there in the top 4 for that Ferrari effort, and Ben Mills and Josh Woolley not teammates no more.
When this track was put on the calendar, I thought I knew it was going to throw up some good racing. No one's driven Madring before. New cars, new game, new ERS model, and it has given us some absolutely incredible battles.
Yeah, and we're potentially going to look for some interviews. Do we need to get that confirmed as they are in the waiting room? Who do you think we should bring on in first?
I say we do reverse podium, so last gen Newt first.
Welcome on in, Newt. How does it feel to get on the podium in the first race?
It's good. It's good to be back to my podium ways, but I am so tired. That race was awful to drive, and I will not be touching Madrid for a very long time.
Obviously, that potentially compounded by the heat. How are you finding it in this UK heatwave?
Oh god, my hands are slipping off the wheel. That's how much sweat there is. It was suffering driving that entire race. And it doesn't help that Madrid already is a very intensive track. So it was very difficult to finish that race.
So first time racing around Madring, is you got to see a lot of action in front of you and behind you. Is this exactly what you expected from the round 1 opener?
Yes, I expected 4 safety cars in the first 10 laps, and I got 4 safety cars in the first 10 laps. It was absolute chaos. I don't actually know anything that happened behind me because all I saw was Liam dropping off about 10 seconds a lap, and that's about it. But at the front, the battles were quite good. It was so difficult to overtake in the chicane, but I managed to get past Luke at one point, and yeah, it was fun. It was very difficult, but the moves that we could go for, I don't think we could have done on the 25 cars. So I think these cars are actually quite decent for it.
Obviously, having been stuck together as a top 3 and then Ben Mills joining on later probably didn't help with how much you had to endure.
Yeah, I mean, Josh had damage, I had damage, I assume Luke also had damage for basically the entire race, so we were driving very far off the pace. And just trying to keep Ben behind, he went through a few moves into the hairpin on me, but I think he clipped the wall and spun around at one point, which wasn't great for him. But yeah, it was difficult, especially with the damage, just the understeer at high speed, it was very bad, but I think it went probably the best that it could have gone. Maybe I could have got P2 if I didn't get a penalty, but it's so easy to get penalties here. I'm not too bothered about it.
Any other thoughts from you, Oren?
No, I'm happy. You have a great race to go back and watch.
Oh, it was a lot of the action caught on.
Oh yeah. Most definitely a lot of the action was caught.
Was my move on Luke caught on or not?
Oh yeah. The
yeah.
whole battle, the last 10 laps were caught. So you go
Great.
back and
I
enjoy
will be
watching that.
looking forward to watching that.
Thank you for a spectacular race today. Have a nice one as well.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
That will be the notes, right?
Yeah, indeed.
The notes. Welcome on in, Ben Mills. How does it feel having such a up and down race, to say the least?
Yeah, I mean, mixed feelings really. The pace was good, but some silly mistakes on my end, and I was trying to deal with damage for the second half of the race after misjudging a move on Newt.
How did you pick up that 10 seconds? We didn't quite necessarily pick it up.
I just cut the chicane in sector 1 a tiny bit too much, and just instant 10 seconds. It's not as if I straight lined the corner. It was just a very minor cut, which was a shame. But it just meant the safety car meant that it wasn't too bad, but it meant I was behind Alex, Liam, and the other guys, which sort of limited my pace.
Talking about the safety cars, how did it feel having 4 back-to-back safety cars?
Yeah, I mean, the first 10 laps of the race went very quickly. We ended up not being able to get into a rhythm until just after that, and then it was pretty much a sprint to the end because the hards were quite durable.
First time racing at the Madring, you didn't seem shy to make overtakes all around the track. Do you think you now have a better idea of what the overtaking distances are like? We heard from Newt that he thinks that the 25 cars were doing impossible to make moves around here, so it'd be interesting to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the dirty air is definitely reduced. And I'm not sure about the slipstream effect because the battery is so influential. But I think there is possibilities for overtakes on different tracks. This track is just too narrow, and there's only one place where you can really deploy a lot of your battery, so you have to go for it in unorthodox places. But yeah, there's definitely positives.
Obviously, getting a chance to make quite a few moves. How do you feel that the overtake system actually helps, or is there disadvantages to it?
I mean, it adds the extra bit of strategy, I guess, with or benefits the car behind a bit more than say the leader of a train. At some tracks, I think it will make a bigger difference than others. But with Madrid, there was so many. Like the regen wasn't too bad, so you could be in a similar state, and as long as you had a certain amount of battery out of the first corner, then you were pretty safe on keeping that position.
Other thoughts from you, Oren?
I don't really have much to say, to be honest, apart from you. I said it to Newt. You have a great race to go back and watch. Most of the action was caught.
Yes, thank you. Thank you guys for commenting.
Thank you for the spectacular race as well. Have a nice evening, and hopefully you can survive this heat.
Thank you.
Welcome on in our race winner, Josh Woolley. How does it feel to win the first race of the season?
That's honestly a surprise. As ever, it seems to be that the more confidence I bring into a race, the worse I do, and the less confidence I bring into a race, the more likely I am to win it. So yeah, a nice surprise to be able to come out on top.
Any insights into your defense over Luke Sawyer across that one? Any particular ways that you was approaching it?
Cautiously, let's say. I picked up wing damage and 2 track limit warnings by about lap 3, I think it was. And so the chicane particularly was terrifying, and therefore I took it quite slowly, let's say, which often did give him a little bit of a run, but Lyco just meant I always had battery to be able to defend against him on the exits.
I see. You didn't really ever get a chance to experience having the overtake mode in your favor. Do you really think there's a big difference between it, or is it enough that you can defend?
I think it's worth a couple of tenths a lap, possibly. On other tracks, it probably will make a difference. But at Madrid today, there's just nowhere to overtake. Like you guys saw it, it's a little bit tight, it's a little bit twisty, and that just meant that as long as I put the car in the right places and didn't miss any corners, unfortunately for Luke, there was sort of no way past.
We saw that in qualifying you weren't able to get your final run in, and then in the race you got fortunate with Ben Mills 10 seconds, but what was it like to drive in the UK heatwave as well as not getting to be able to get into your rhythm in the first 10 laps, and then obviously having Luke Sawyer right up the rear end of you for the remaining 10 laps of the race?
Yes, it was hot. The heat very much didn't help. Yeah, qualifying was a little bit of a shambles coming up to turn 5, I think it was, and suddenly I see 3 cars parked in a barrier in front of me. He's never a good way to finish the session, but got a little bit fortunate when Ben then had an oopsies at the chicane and picked up a penalty. And then once the other guys picked up a penalty, I sort of could just cruise home, knowing that as long as I didn't pick up a penalty, then they weren't going to beat me.
Obviously, with the heat wave, we've heard from other drivers that this track is a little bit more physical to drive. Is that the same case for you as well?
Yes, absolutely. It's especially the banking, the force feedback is a lot stronger than on other circuits. Not entirely sure why, but for whatever reason, it's just a little bit stronger feedback. And so, yeah, it was a physical race, and I very much need a shower.
Any closing thoughts from you from the race overall?
Just happy that it's over, really. It was difficult, and hopefully we put on a good show for you guys.
Oh, we caught the entirety of the back end of it, and the opening laps had plenty of action. So, thank you for putting on quite a spectacle this evening, and I hope that you can enjoy this race win, even if it's a little bit too hot to really celebrate.
Perfect. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. All right, then. Any other thoughts from you, Oren, before we close this one out?
It's just been great to hear from the drivers that overtaking seems to be a lot better on this game than it was on the previous, and now that we've got Madring out of the way, going to more conventional circuits, hopefully we see a lot more racing and a lot more cleaner racing as well.
Well, we don't go necessarily straight to another traditional circuit. We will go to Jeddah, a race we didn't get to see in real life, so we have no idea how these cars are going to perform around there. But after watching Madring ring, I'm going to guess it's a little bit similar, in it being a bit more difficult than some of the F1 tricks we've seen in real life to get an overtake. Any thoughts on that from you?
Well, Jeddah's a circuit that they're going to be familiar with, so hopefully they pick more conventional overtaking places. I know this is difficult with Lyco to pick braking points, which is quite nice with Madring because you had no previous muscle memory on where to brake. When you Lycoed, you could then pick up a new point. But obviously with Jeddah, it's been on the game since 2021, they're all going to know where the braking point is, so having to try and relearn the braking points could be a bit difficult. And these cars really will benefit the drivers who can Lyco better, regen their battery better, as we heard from Ben and Josh that it's probably worth about a tenth, 2 tenths a lap. So it'll be interesting to see what the strategies the drivers apply.
And then that is it from us here at the BUSR Summer 2026 season opener at the Madrid Ring. Next week we'll be out at Jeddah. But once again, thank you all for tuning in, and thank you NSC SimStaff and Grid Finder for helping bring this product to you guys. We hope to catch you around next week at the same time, and also at LMU and AC. Have a good one.
Road.